fear aggression is the other type of aggression that I commonly see. So it's either directed towards familiar people, can't get no respect type aggression, or it's them out there. And Ian was talking about the German Shepherd, and he's quite right that that's exactly, that's kind of the epitome of a dog that is just an absolutely terrific, wonderful family dog, as long as the doors are shut. And, with mum and dad and the kids and maybe not the cat, that depends on early life, but really terrific dog as a family dog. But it's them out there that they don't like. So I very rarely see, quotes, dominance aggression or, this conflict aggression towards an owner with a German Shepherd. I mean, it just doesn't happen. Someone says, you've got an aggressive German Shepherd, the next case. I'm not even thinking of what I was talking about this morning. I've heard of one. I'm sure they do exist. There was one in a book written by one of the PhD behaviorists, John Wright, and it was called The Dog Who Would Be King. And I think that dog was aggressive to the family. But so it does happen, but it's just not common. So this is one of our students, Boris. And so fear it can be very specific. So actually in The Dog Who Loved Too Much, I wrote a story about a dog who was frightened of men with white beards. And that dog just had an issue with all of them. That's what I was saying, the class action suit, all men with white beards are my enemy. And when we did inquire, we found out that when the dog was 10.5 weeks old, the babysitter who was looking after the dog sitter, had a visit from her boyfriend, who, yes, after much digging and probing, was a man with a white beard. And now when she thought back, the woman remembers some kind of scuffle and a squeaky crying thing going on, and came back in and found the dog in the corner of the room, and he's like, but that was the white beard imprinted indelibly in the dog's mind for all time. So here's this dog, barking at strangers, never settling down in the presence. If the person comes into the house, we'll just talk about the German Shepherd. I hate to smear them so badly because I think they are wonderful family dogs, but here's this epitome of a German Shepherd. 3 of them in the one chapter called Beware of the Dog in my first book. 3, just cookie cutter. I had called the chapter The Toll Booth Collector Syndrome because I can tell the person the next thing. It's like, and I bet you he, and I bet you he, and they go, yeah, how did you know? It's because they all do the same thing. So people come in the house, there may be a big display, the owner may get the display under control, things may be going quite well, until the person reaches for the sugar, or goes to the bathroom, or gets up to leave. So any perturbation in the environment, and whoa, you're off again with one of these things. And you have to really watch your back, because their bite is a cheap shot. They'll get you, typically the bite is somewhere down the back of the leg. It's the heel, the calf, the thigh, the buttocks, or some of them are very tenuous. They grab your clothes and rip them when they run. And a lot of them, funnily enough, are herding breeds. And herding breeds were bred not to kill. The old saying is that, if say a border collie killed a sheep, the treatment was Smith & Wesson treatment. They shot him. And so they actually bred a dog who, at the last minute, hesitates. And so it's a hit-and-run bite, and it's almost always down the back of the leg. Unless, of course, there is another, more sinister type of aggression, which Ian describes correctly as predatory, where dogs with very high prey drive, and especially big, powerful dogs, can sometimes, very rarely, I should say, switch into this prey mode, and then all the bets are off with the German Shepherd. I'm just talking about a fear-aggressive Shepherd. Territorial aggression, there's 2 types. In my mind, I don't think I've ever read it anywhere else, but it seems to be that some dogs are territorial through, let's use the word again, dominance, which is their duty. It's their God-given right to do alarm barking, to warn the family there's somebody encroaching. Whoa, 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 whoa. Oh, aggressive dog. But actually, once you get in the door, they're pretty cool. And then the other type, they never settle, which is back to the old shepherd we keep talking about. The difference between territorial aggression and fear aggression is that territorial aggression, if you want a definition, you maybe don't, but territorial aggression is confined to the territory. And the territory is the house, and the yard, and the streets up and down that the dog patrols, and the car, and all these other areas. They're extensions, because they have not read your plot plans. And they don't know where your territory starts and stops. But they do know what belongs to them. And the dominant ones do this confident alarm barking in that situation. And The more fearful dogs, what it is, I think, is they're actually fear-aggressive dogs, but they don't have enough confidence to be fear-aggressive when they're off their home turf. They can only afford to do this swaggering bravery display when they're in familiar territory. So I call it territorial / fear, or fear / territorial. So it can sometimes spread and be misdirected that way. So these are just, to finish up, I've almost done, just what I call the 3 R's, reading, writing, and arithmetic. What you need as your baseline for any treatment of aggression, whether it's owner-directed or fear aggression or territorial aggression or predatory aggression, is you have to give a dog enough exercise. It's got to get. I mean, in the chapter I wrote about, I described the high exercise dogs like the Weimaraners, the dogs that need to run, the Wieslas, dogs that were bred to run and run and run, and then the sort of middle activity levels, and then there's the couch potatoes. And there are some couch potatoes. But a dog that's got to run, you've got to try and encourage every dog to do as much as its body will allow it to do. It's like what we should do. We should really be every day getting 30 or 40 minutes of cardio exercise, or at least 4 or 5 times a week. Every day is better for a dog. We need an appropriate diet. We've talked about that. And not one, for example, I mean, people say, I buy my dog the most expensive ration, and it's some food that's been designed for dogs that drag sleds in the Iditarod. You don't need that. When you've got a house pet, you don't need that kind of oomph.